Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, I wanted to talk to you today about a couple of topics. The first of which surrounded this roster and the final 6 games of the season. As we know, Commanders are 3-8. They're on their bye. They come off their bye next week, where they'll host the Denver Broncos on Sunday Night Football in their championship era threads. There's a lot of conversation about who will be back, who won't be back, etc. Post bye, what it's going to look like, what the team should do, shouldn't do, etc. Here's what I want to talk about right now. We know where this team is at 3-8. We know that they have 6 games left. We know they're going to continue to try and win. That is the ultimate goal for them. They're not looking to develop young players, contrary to what DQ tells you about filling up both buckets simultaneously. If they cared about filling up that bucket more so than winning, they would put the young guys in. That's not their main focus. Their central focus is to find a way to win football games. And if they can develop young players along the way, cool. If not, they're not pressed, right? I hate that, but that's the way it is, right? So with me going into this final stretch of the season, I want to ask you a $1 million question. There's a lot of players that we want to see. There are guys that have played the entirety of this season that you may want to see play better. There are question marks going into the offseason, and some that can be answered, others maybe not as much, but you might be given better clarity by having someone declare what they are or aren't in the final 6 weeks of the season for this team moving forward. And so I ask you the simple question: what Commanders player post-bye, final 6 games of the season, has the most to prove to you? And it could be for a litany of reasons. And you could choose multiple guys, but I don't want you choosing multiple guys. That's too easy because there are a lot of guys. We could literally run down the 2024 NFL draft class of Adam Peters, and you could probably pick off 4 or 5 guys just from that draft class alone as guys that need to prove it down the stretch. But I need you to pick one guy that you're looking at and saying, bro, I need to see it. And you could be wanting to see it because let's, you know what? Let's go straight to the list that I've compiled, but there are other names that I will add to this list as we are here. But let's go through all the names and I'll give you my rationale as to why they're here. We'll start with first-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft for the Washington Commanders, Josh Connolly Jr., the tackle who made the switch from left tackle to right tackle. Very young, very green coming into the NFL. I think he has gotten better as the season has progressed. But for some, when you spend a first-round pick on a guy, you expect first-round production. And he has been a liability at times this season. And we expected that coming out of the gates with Brian Burns in week 1 and Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary in week 2 and Max Crosby in week 3. And I don't know if you understand, but the Falcons are second in the NFL in sacks this season. You knew that was going to be a tough challenge. And then it would start to taper off in week 5 versus the Chargers, and he could try to settle in based off of the whirlwind start to his NFL career with all of the elite rushers that were in front of him. We've seen him get better. He's had his moments this season where it hasn't been pretty. He's been penalized a few times for various infractions, but I thought he played some of his best football in week number 10 versus Detroit and Aiden Hutchinson, who wasn't able to really generate any pressure against him. Last week in Madrid, he had a penalty, but outside of said penalty, he kept it awfully quiet on his side of the football for the most part. And so I think he has played really well, but for some of you, like Ed, for instance, who, I think Ed understands that the young fella is getting better. he still doesn't believe that he has shown the first round chops that he needs to see. So for someone out there like that, you may need to see more of Josh Connerly Jr., right? And you need him to prove it to you that he is what he was drafted to be down the final stretch of this season. Next guy up is Bill. And I don't really feel like I need to go into explicit detail as to why he needs to prove it. I think everything is there. We know that this guy has extremely high level talent, but we've also seen the low of the lows with him, the fumbles, the indecisiveness, the hesitation. These are all things that have crippled him and have lost confidence in the staff in him, right? The confidence that was once there to make him the starter, to give him the bulk of the carries, is no longer there because of the fumbles, because of the hesitation, because of him not being decisive and hitting holes. They don't block for him the way that they do other running backs here either. I don't understand what happens when he's on the field, but they also need to find better ways to utilize him. They can throw it to him out of the backfield, which they don't. They need to put him out there and give him more runs to the perimeter of the defense, which they don't do enough, I believe. But with that said, if Bill is to be your feature back, he needs to be able to prove he can run inside the tackles as well as outside the tackles. And right now, we just haven't seen the consistency inside the tackles from him. I want to see him get more opportunities, not less. I want to really determine, is this the guy that we can hang our hat on in the run game, or do we need to go find us a different running back? I've talked about the amount of running backs that will be available this offseason. There are guys that are very intriguing. I feel like you need to know what you're looking for next offseason. Is Bill simply a backup? And he's a 7th-round pick. If he is, that's okay. Go get you a K9 in free agency. Go get you a Breece Hall, and let's really turn it up offensively at the running back position. If you think Bill, and you want to save your coin and reallocate those resources elsewhere, and you think Bill can be that guy, well, we need to see it the final 6 weeks of the season. Jartavius Martin feels like a lost cause at this point. But there is 6 games left in the season, and he can reestablish himself as a starting safety on this team if he plays well down the stretch. I highly doubt that at this point. They were ride or dies for Jartavius Martin, and he has gotten to the point now where he was benched in the game recently on Sunday. I have a feeling he's going to get back into the starting lineup, right? When we come off this bye, he'll be out there with the ones against Denver, but it wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't. But ultimately, I think his ship has sailed here in terms of like being a massive impact starter. He can be a rotational depth safety, a guy that if, push comes to shove, they have to put in the game. But I don't know if he'll ever be what we thought he was going to be when he was drafted out of Illinois as a 2nd-round pick. But you may say, I need to see more of Jartavius down the stretch just to make sure that he's not what we thought he was. I think I won't speak for you. I've come to the conclusion that I've had 3 years, which is a large enough sample size, of Jartavius not making plays. So I'm good on him. He's not the guy that would be anywhere near the top of the pile in terms of the choice that I would make. The guy next to him, though, is a little bit different. And I think he is such an interesting conversation for these final 6 weeks, talking about Mikey Sainristil. Because when you look at Mikey, we don't know if he's a nickel or a boundary corner at this point. Played well against Miami. Okay. Dolphins, we'll see. All right, the Broncos will pose a different set of circumstances and threats and challenges. We know the following week, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison will pose probably the biggest threat to him that we've seen all season. Now, their quarterback isn't very good right now, but still, those guys outside are going to be problematic for him in the Vikings game if he's still out there. And we have no reason to assume that he won't be outside, right? Because with all the injuries, they want Noah Igbenogany inside. That's where he's best. Mikey's probably going to be outside for the final 6 games of the season. A lot of people have been calling for Mikey to go back outside where he played well last season. I don't think that's where he can thrive. He can survive out there. He cannot thrive in the NFL as a boundary corner, which is why you want to put him back inside where he probably can survive. He can thrive, but he was barely surviving this year, right? What do these last 6 games look like? If Mikey kills it outside, can you afford to put him back inside? And if he does kill it, does that alter your plans about being aggressive and finding a corner to go opposite of Trey Amos this offseason? There are a lot of questions surrounding Mikey Samerstill. What do you do with him? Is he a nickel? Is he a boundary? How do you go about? Do you need a nickel? Is he not good enough? Do you need to aggressively attack nickel via the draft or free agency? These are questions that are real. I've already gone through this earlier today. If you already watched the defensive show that I put together, that was a really good show. You should watch if you haven't. But we talked about the cornerback position. We're at the same exact point that we were last year at cornerback. Same exact position. Last year, we went into the offseason with 2 corners on the roster, Mikey Samerstill and Marshawn Lattimore. This year, we're going into the offseason with 3 corners, but I think that number is really 2 corners, and Trey Amos and Mike Samerstill. I think that Lattimore, who is under contract, does have 1 year remaining, is going to be relieved of his duties. He's going to be cut, right? So these final 6 weeks from Mikey outside could be very telling. That could be the guy that has the most to prove to you. Deebo Samuel, we've talked about him earlier in the week about kind of the dilemma, the Deebo dilemma, if you will. And do you bring him back? What that number may look like, et cetera, et cetera. You may not be sold on Deebo being back. He started out like game busters, kind of cooled off, and you may be like, hey, I need to see more before I commit myself to another 30-year-old wide receiver, which we already have one on this current roster that will be moving forward with the team. Do you want to commit to a second? What does it even look like when Terry, Deebo, and Jaden are all on the field? We really don't know. So I do think these final 6 games mean something for Deebo. Will he be here? Won't he be here? We don't know. We really don't know. Jaden Daniels. This is not a popular pick for most, but for some, he hasn't looked like Jaden Daniels from his rookie season. No shit, Sherlock, I would tell those people. Good luck trying to look like you did the year before when, 1, the guys around you have been a revolving door, not of talent either. 2, you yourself have not been healthy for much of the season. You've sustained your first of 3 injuries in week 2, right? And have been fighting to get back onto the field and stay on the field since then, right? And then 3, it's just been an abject disaster from a defensive standpoint, which applies pressure to the offense. When you go out on the field as an offense and you feel like, shit, we got to score on every possession or else, it puts a damper on how you can go out and play football. Puts a lot more pressure on you. Oh, by the way, the defense isn't getting stops. You're losing time possession, and you're not getting as many offensive possessions. There's a lot of reasons as to why Jaden Daniels, I can keep going, hasn't looked as sharp as he did in his rookie season. Some of it is his own fault, though, right? There have been open receivers, and he's missed. He's been a little bit inaccurate. Absolutely, that's been the case. But when it's all said and done, there are a lot of circumstances that have dictated why Jaden hasn't looked like the 24 version of himself. Some people may say, I need to see that guy to know that he's still that guy. I don't need to see that. I know he's still that guy. And once he's healthy and the pieces around him are healthy, you've heard, oh, he's running too much. I would be running too if Chris Moore and Robbie Chosen and Tay Martin are my receivers that I'm trying to get the football to. I'd probably tuck it and run as well. Anyway, Jaden Daniels may be the guy that has the most to prove the final 6 weeks of the season. For you, Johnny Newton. Johnny Newton. I don't know if there is anybody that tops the list for me more so than Johnny Newton. Now, I'll say this. I kind of put him in the Quan Martin bucket where I don't really think he's going to show me anything that I don't already know. But Unlike Quan, who is going into the final year of his rookie contract next year, Johnny is going into year 3. There's still time. And I like to give my draft picks 3 years before I completely give up on them. I'm a 3-year guy. Give me 3 years. If you haven't shown me anything after the 3rd season, I pretty much have made a decision on you by then. But I don't like to jump to conclusions after just 2 seasons. It's tough because the light bulb could come on in year 3. I don't see the quickness, the explosion to overcompensate and offset the lack of sheer physical size and physicality from Johnny Newton. He doesn't have the ability to stand up to a double team. He doesn't have the ability to stand up in the run game consistently. And so you have to then counter that with quickness. What's your superpower? Right now, Johnny Newton doesn't have one. And so the low-hanging fruit is to choose Johnny Newton. And if you do, I don't mind taking a bite out of that low-hanging fruit because it makes sense. He's an easy choice and an easy mark right now. I just think you're wasting your time if you're choosing Johnny Newton. Jalen Lane. I don't think Lane is an issue. I think the issue is not getting him more opportunities. Now, we don't even know this man's status moving forward. We could find out next Monday from DQ that Jalen Lane is out for the season too with a hip injury, for all we know. I don't think that's going to be the case, but we don't know, right? I hope the young fella gets to continue to play. I hope that DQ's defense produces more punts so he can show the thing that he was drafted to do. Because I think he's a dynamic punt returner. He's already shown evidence of that. He needs more opportunities to do that, not less. And any opportunities he gets to be a receiver, that helps for next year. That helps. I'm not down on the kid. I don't necessarily need to see him prove it down the stretch the most, but I would love to see him get more opportunities as a punt returner. But for you, you might say, I need to see Jalen Lane as a receiver, as a punt returner. I need to see him earn his keep as a 4th-round pick, and that's fair. Jordan McGee is next up on the list, as you can see. McGee is very interesting because is he a Mike? Is he a outside backer? Right? Can you blitz him? I think you can. I think there's so many things you can do with him that you can unlock with him that we haven't. They're playing him more, so that is happening. He had almost 30 snaps in Madrid. They're playing him more. They have been since the Kansas City game. So he's getting opportunities. However, at some point, and I know that's not going to happen this week or the next week or the next week after that, but at some point, maybe the final 3 games of the season, we got to find out if this guy's a Mike or not. Is he a green dotter or what? Can he get guys lined up? Can he communicate to the rest of the defense? Or is that not his steez? Because if it's not, there are, as I went through on my defensive show earlier today, there are a lot of guys that can wear a green dot that are available in free agency that would upgrade this defense significantly. You're going to have to pay some money. Why pay when you got food at home, right? If Jordan McGee can play middle linebacker and start for you, then you don't need to go out for food. You have food at home. But we don't know if he can or not because he hasn't gotten the opportunities to show that. So it'd be nice if we could see that. But don't hold your breath, right? I just talked about it at the top of the show. DQ is trying to win games. He's not interested in developing young talent, not to their fullest capabilities. They can get on the field like Jordan McGee. He can get on the field, sure. But I'm not putting him in the most ideal position to figure out if he can or can't. How about Tyler Owens? I think his situation is a bit more dire. Kind of feels like we're getting towards the end of the can Tyler Owens be a defender, rope, so to speak. He may be a core special teamer. And if he carves out a niche for himself in the league for just that purpose, there is a place in the league for a guy that's 6'2", 215 pounds that can run like lightning. There's a place in the league for him on special teams, if nothing else. However, They're holding out hope that this guy can be a defender, a Jeremy Chin, a guy that can be on the field athletically and use those exploits to really help you. I don't know if that is plausible or not at this point. He hasn't shown me anything that makes me say, oh, Tyler Owens, year 2. I like to give these young guys 3 years. They may be at wit's end with him, though, in terms of trying to figure it out. And I will say this roster is back to square one, meaning we're back to where we were when these guys first got here in terms of roster construction. I think they're going to break this roster down this offseason and build it back up slowly but surely. So I do think there's space for a guy like Tyler Owens to stick around, unlike last year where they had to start cutting guys like Dominique Hampton to make space for some of the veterans because they were trying to win. That's not where we are anymore. We're still in the pursuit of success. You're not chasing a Super Bowl necessarily, right? So with that said, Owens should be safe again next year for them to continue to experiment with him. But if they deem that the experiment is over and they don't feel like his special teams prowess is enough to keep him around and they need the roster spot, he could be gone. So maybe these final 6 weeks are a huge opportunity for him to prove to them that he has some sort of defensive value. But if he can't, maybe they go into next year thinking he's nothing more than a special teams commodity. And at that point, you become very expendable if you're not elite at that. The next guy on the list is El Capitan, one Terry McLaurin. I don't even think he belongs here, to be honest with you. I put him up here because there are people that believe that he needs to come back and earn his money. And yes, he has a lot to prove this year. And some people blame him for the demise of this team. He started it, him and Adam Peters, with their whole contractual bullshit, standoff, right? However you feel, whatever that looks like for you. I saw enough in the Chiefs game to understand the impact of one Terry McLaurin. The Chiefs couldn't cover him. He was a problem. He was the only offense we had that night. He accounted for the only touchdown. The only real yards that we had receiving was Terry, felt like the entire night. Everything else was nickel and dime, dink and dunk. He could stretch the football field vertically. We seem to not have another guy on the roster that can do it. So as far as I'm concerned, we know the value that lies in Terry McLaurin. He showed us. He came back in one game in basically 3 quarters before re-injuring himself. He showed us in those 3 quarters what the game was missing. But there's still some out there that want to see more. So, and then the last guy in front of you is Ben Sinnott. And for a lot of you, Ben needs to show improve. And these final 6 games should be a great opportunity for him. But I put him in the same boat as Jordan McGee. The only difference is they are getting McGee on the field and giving him a chance. They're getting Miss Sinnott on the field, but they're not giving him a chance. They're not giving him a chance. The ball isn't finding him. He's not getting targets. Like Cliff Kingsbury can call plays that specifically target Ben Sinnott. It's not hard. They can run a tight end screen and throw it to Ben Sinnott. You say he's an athlete, right? Show us. We probably won't see it the final 6 weeks because they're going to continue to put Zach Ertz on the field because they're trying to win football games. They're going to continue to throw him the football. We'd love to see Ben Sinnott get involved, touch the football, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Now, there are a couple of other names that I want to throw up here at you guys real quick. How about Drake Jackson? I think for me, the final 6 weeks of the season, if he's healthy, which the 21-day window has been opened, he's the guy at the top of my list because we don't have anything at defensive end going into the offseason. We talked about that on the defensive show earlier today. Again, if you haven't watched, you should. We don't have anything going into the offseason. We got nothing. Dorrance Armstrong is coming off of injury. Jacob Martin is a backup, and he's not under contract for next season. Javonte John Baptiste is a 7th-round pick. We got nothing. Dietrich Wise won't be back. Von Miller won't be back. We got nothing. And we don't know when or how Dorrance will look when he returns. If Drake Jackson comes in here in these final 6 games of the season, assuming he plays week 13 versus Denver, they may not bring him back until the following week against Minnesota, and it's a 5-game sample size at that point, whatever it looks like. I'm intrigued. Because what is he? Is he a starter? Opposite of Dorrance? Is he a backup to go along with Jacob Martin if you should bring him back and those are your 2 backup edge rushers and you still need a starting edge rusher opposite? And I've already said this. I don't care how well Drake Jackson plays necessarily. It doesn't deter you from getting something elite. If you're in the space where you can draft a Bain or Arvell Reese, there's no conversation to be had. You take one of those guys. And I don't even know how good they are. I'm just basing that off of what everyone's saying. All the draft beatniks, all the fans that have watched these guys, they're ranting and raving about those players. They're probably like that. Yeah, you take that guy. I don't care how good Drake Jackson plays down the stretch. Drake Jackson could have 5 sacks in 6 games. Great. We could use that. But I'm still drafting one of those guys if it's possible. But if Drake Jackson, and again, it's a tough ask of him coming off of a significant injury that got him cut because he couldn't pass a physical. It's hard to ask him in 6 games to prove to us, hey, I'm like that. We just need to see flashes. If he proves that he's a potential starter, we may not need to do anything aggressively in free agency. You may still need to attack it in the draft, however. Don't forget Dorrance is going into the final year of his contract as well. So I'm not telling you to, bypass the entire position altogether. I'm just telling you may not need to do anything drastic in free agency. But if he looks like a backup, then you definitely need to attack it in free agency potentially as well as the draft and double down on it. At a bare minimum, attack it aggressively in the draft. So I think he's huge. And then I think he's a guy that you definitely want to watch. And then I think another player that could be in the mix is Treylon Burks. Now, we don't know when he's going to return from his finger injury and the surgery that he had, but the small sample size was enough to tantalize us all to be like, hey, this guy could be a fixture of this team moving forward at the receiver position. But again, we don't need another Noah Brown. We don't need another guy that's gonna tease us with what he can provide us with and then be out of the lineup for 6 weeks. Then show up for 3-4 weeks and then be out again. We don't need that. So what is he? Only one way to find out. He's got to get healthy and get back on the football field. Anyway, I digress. So we're going to transition to in other news here in a second. But before we do that, we're going to get a word from our sponsor, come back on the other side. And then I'm going to tell you why you can charge this 2025 debacle of a season to my account. We'll do that here in a minute. Sleeper. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper. All right, so now we're in other news, and let me start off by apologizing to every single one of you. This 2025 season is my fault. I'm going to bear the brunt of this. You can charge this to my account. Now, I'm going to continue to be braggadocious about our quarterback. I like where this organization is. I don't love where we are. Obviously, I loved where we were this time last year. Different set of circumstances. Excuse me. Different set of circumstances this year, obviously, at 3-8 versus the 7-8 7-3 we were this time last year, going in, or 7-4, excuse me, this time last year going into week 12. I still think this organization's heading in the right direction. It's under great leadership in Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. I think Quinn is still the right man for the job. It's easy to get caught up in looking at other teams' stuff and falling in love with what they're doing and lose sight of what it is that we're doing and what we need, right? But I made a mistake last year, and the tongue is very sharp, and it's very, very impactful. You have to watch what you say sometimes, because football gods are always listening. People are always listening. You know, beings are always listening. And you put certain things in the atmosphere, and they're surely bound to come back and bite you in the ass. And that's what I think happened to me. So I'm going to play you a brief clip from my draft party from the 2025 NFL draft. And I'm going to elaborate on why you can charge this season to my account. Take a listen. I forgot. My bad. I have to play it on the screen so you guys can see it. Can't play it on the through the app. I have to play it through the software. My bad. Let me pull it up for you right now. All right. My bad. Here we go. I knew it. If they were coming up, it had to be for a stud, right? Somebody that fell, that had no business being there. Yeah, like that was the guy that I told y'all in like 50 different mocks. Like, if he falls, you got to take him. And of course, we take the tackle, Josh Connolly. So Campbell goes to the Eagles, and they got another defense. And look, we in a division where you got Jackson Dart, but more importantly, you got us, right? And we got Jaden Daniels, and we heard him on a 3rd down or 4th down and forever, and he ran on him. This is a guy that you can use to spy and not let him do that. They didn't have a linebacker currently that could stop Jaden Daniels from running around. Now they do. So, I'll be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed that they got him, but it would have been worse if it was Walter Nolan. But this sucks too, because now they got one. We're the only team in the division that don't have one of those dudes, right? Giants got one. They drafted one tonight. Eagles just drafted one. Cowboys already have one. We don't have one. The closest thing we have is Frankie Louisville. Frankie Louisville isn't the athlete that Jahad Campbell, Abdul Carter, or Michael Parsons is. So we're the only team in the division. But again, this comes with time, right? Like, the Giants earned the right to draft Abdul Carter. We had a chance to draft Jahad Campbell. We did what was best for us. The Eagles already got an ironclad offensive line. We don't. So we're trying to build that. So you can't be upset. You can't be upset. You can't be upset. I'm not upset. I understand the pick. I understand why they did it. And I'm cool with them doing what they did. I'm cool with it. All right. So obviously, things have changed since that video. I did not know the Cowboys were going to ultimately trade Michael Parsons away, but they still have DeMarvion Overshown, and I don't know if he's going to ever return back to the level that he was at prior to this last injury, because that's his second one. But if he does, they still got one of those dudes that's a freak athlete at the linebacker position. He was unblockable, was the Marvion Overshown before the injury last year. We'll see if he returns to that status or not. But even if he doesn't, they traded for Quinnen Williams. I'm pretty sure you watched Monday Night Football, and I get that the Raiders' offensive line stinks, especially on the interior. But that's what you do to garbage-ass offensive linemen on the interior. You dominate them. You make them look foolish, and you harass the quarterback, and you make plays on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage, and that's what Quinnen Williams did. Now they have a twosome inside, a duo inside with Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams, just like the Eagles have a duo inside with the Georgia Bulldog connection with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. The Giants have, Dexter Lawrence, and they drafted a kid this past year out of Toledo that could be a problem next to him. And so we might be the only, team in the division that doesn't have this dynamic duo inside at defensive tackle. And we don't have a freak athlete. We don't have one. Eagles drafted Jahad Campbell. They got all kinds of freak athletes on their defensive side of the football, but they got one of those freaks in Jahad Campbell. I watched Jahad Campbell cover a receiver, not a tight end, not a running back, a receiver 30 yards down the field, turn his head and actually locate the football and knock it away. We don't have anybody on our team that can do that. We don't even know if our corners can do that, let alone a linebacker. Abdul Carter is a freak. We haven't really seen it from him, but they got Brian Burns. Even if he doesn't manifest into what they think he's going to be, they still got Brian Burns, who's got like 12 sacks this season, whatever the number is he has. So they still got one of those dudes that's like almost impossible to block. And then Dallas, like I said, they added Quinnen Williams, and Marvion Overshown is back, and we'll see what he turns into. Either way, we don't have anything that looks anything remotely close to any of those guys. Not the defensive tackles, not the linebacker. And so shortly after that video that you just saw, that I just played for you, I said twice on two different occasions, I stopped just short of saying that I would do anything. I do anything. Yes, I'd do anything. Yes, I'd do anything. Anything for you. I would do anything for one of those elite guys on the defensive side of the football. I stopped short of that, but I damn near pretty much said it twice. Couldn't find the actual videos, but I very vividly remember saying, I tell you what, I would do almost anything basically for one of these guys. I didn't know when I said that the football gods would take me at face value literally and say, oh, you want one of those guys? Seriously? Because I can make it happen. It's going to cost you. It could cost you a little, or it could cost you a lot, but it's going to cost you. So how bad you want it? I can tell you right now, I would not have wanted it this bad. All the injuries that we suffered this season, losing guys for the year, losing all of these football games, regressing the way that we did this season, I wouldn't have wanted one of those guys this badly. No, I would not have signed up for that. Well, shit, we're here now. And I wanted one of those guys. This is why you have to be careful of being envious of what other teams have. What is good for one team may not be good for you, may not be meant for you. And I was over here lusting over other teams' talent. That's my fault. This is why you can charge it to my account. I'm looking over here at what other people got, what other teams have. And this is why I'm trying to tell y'all right now, I'm in the process of scaling back all of the, man, look at what this team had. I'm going to go through it again tonight. I'm going to watch this Texans defense for the 15th time this season and be like, damn, I would love to have a combo like Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter on the other side. I would love to have that shit. I would love to have one of these, Henry Toa'Toas at linebacker that just flies around and hits anything that moves. Man, I would give no, I wouldn't. But I'd let you give your left pinky for those two damn corners and Jalen Petrie as a nickel. Caleb Bullocks, are you serious at safety? The Texans have everything you need to be elite, and that's why they're elite defensively. We have none of that stuff. But I can't lust over other teams' talent. This is what it gets you right here. Oh, you want a young defensive coordinator? Okay, I can fix that for you. I'm going to make sure your defensive coordinator is so inept that we got to take the play calling responsibilities from him. Go find you a young defensive coordinator. You wanted one so damn bad? You over here lusting over these guys? Go find you one now. I put you in a position where you need one. I apologize to every single one of y'all out there because I was being greedy. I wanted too much too soon. And I asked for it, not knowing that the cost was going to be so great. The cost was astronomical. But this is what I asked for. I wanted one of these elite prospects. You remember what Mike Tomlin said to Chase Young? You remember what he said? You remember what he said that Monday night when we went to Pittsburgh when they were 11-0 and we upset them on a Monday night? You remember what he said to him? Mic'd up. He said, I don't ever want to lose enough games to get a guy that looks like you. I don't ever want to do that. I'm pretty sure Steelers fans would prefer that they have lost enough games to get them a quarterback or some sort of play. But Mike Tomlin's like, I'm good. We'll figure it out. We'll find TJ Watt at the back end of the first round. To hell with that bullshit. I don't ever want to lose enough games to get a guy that looks like you. Well, here we are. Losing enough games to get a guy that looks like him yet again. Let's see if we close the deal, we finish the job. But guilty as charged. I asked for us to end up with a player on the line, along the lines of what everybody else had in the division. Instead of just us running the race at our pace, I wanted to expedite things. I wanted to be like everybody else. I got what I asked for. Now look at us. It'll be worth it, though. If we get one of these dudes and they like that, it'll change everything. One step back to take a million steps forward. But boy, does this shit stink in the moment, right? Boy, does this shit sick at 3-8 on the bye week. This 6 straight losses. This shit stinks. Stinks. But it's what I asked for. And I deserve what I got. And I'm sorry to all of y'all that y'all had to endure this because of my bullshit. I'll be better. I'll be better. Maybe we'll actually get the guy that we suffered for. Let's hope that we remain competitive. It's going to pain me when we get to the end of the season, especially if Philadelphia's in the midst of a #1 seed push. It's going to kill me on Christmas Day with everybody watching. I'm going to be probably sitting next to my dad. It's going to kill me to have to lose a game against Dallas or the Eagles coming to our building on a Saturday, knowing they got the #1 seed on the line, knowing we could do irreparable damage. If they got to go on the road in the playoffs, they're cooked. You're asking me to pick between like, if you tell me right now, and I ask you, and I'm asking you this, put it in the comment section. After this video is done, put it in the comment section. If you had to choose between beating the Eagles in week 16 at home on a Saturday, and it prevented them from winning the Super Bowl, or losing that game, they get the #1 seed and they ultimately go on to go back to back and repeat as champions. But you get Arvell Reese or Bain or whoever, one of these stud defenders that we don't know if he's actually going to be elite or not. But you know the Eagles are going to win a Super Bowl because they got the #1 seed. Which would you choose? Which would you choose? Eagles catching up to us in the Super Bowl race, going back to back. We'll get the player. Or beating the Eagles, Rams get the #1 seed and defeat the Eagles in the postseason because of it, and we fall down in the draft standings 3 or 4 spots. What's it going to be? I'm just telling you, it's going to be tough when we get to December and there's an opportunity that might present itself to beat these bums, them and Dallas, and to have to sit there and root for the opposite. It's a lot easier to root for losses when you're playing teams like the Rams and the Jets, like we were back in 2023. We finished this season with 4 straight divisional opponents or 4 straight divisional games. I don't know, man. I don't know about y'all. I might have to take the L on the draft pick and stop the Eagles from winning another Super Bowl. But that's just me. Leave it down in the comment section, though. I apologize. My fault. I can't promise it won't happen again, but I'm going to try to be better moving forward. So, anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section, and then we'll get out of here. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Derek B, writes, Josh Connolly Jr. got Mariota decapitated versus Miami. He's dangerous. I don't remember that play. But then again, I don't remember a lot of plays this season. It's a very forgettable season. But if you say he got him decapitated, I believe you. I believe you. So he needs work. No one's debating that he doesn't need work. I think he's getting better. But I also didn't think he was elite coming out of the draft, and I don't think he's elite now. So, there's that. But there's room for improvement, and I expect him to continue to get better. He's one of the youngest players in the NFL right now. So I expect him to have some pitfalls, and I hope that he continues to improve, and I hope he comes back stronger next year, better because of the rookie season that he just turned in. Now his body has gotten used to being on the right side, so that transformation doesn't have to take place anymore. There's a lot that he had to endure this year. Now, next year, hopefully, if he's still making some of the mistakes we see this year, next year, then you start to question. I'm going to give him 3 years before I start to feel this way or that way about him. I already told you what I think he's going to be. He's going to be like a Morgan Moses type, which is solid. You can win a lot of football games with that kind of player. But again, Morgan Moses was a 3rd-round pick, and Josh Connolly Jr. is a 1st-round pick, and that's the difference. I'm gonna have a real conversation with you guys about that down the line. I was gonna actually do it this week, and I was like, this isn't really the time for that. I'll wait till the offseason. I need to make a note though, so I don't forget. I want to have a conversation with you guys about that. But anyway, I digress. The Big Energy Company. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Lou, I love you like a play cousin. Uh-oh. This feels like a build me up just to kick me down. All right. You're truly gifted at this podcast thing. Here we go. Deep water's coming. I feel it. I knew there was a conjunction, and there's about to be a lot of shit after it. But please make room for Willie Merritt's file right behind the NHO. Okay. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I can exhale now. Thought it was about to be really bad. I'm not giving up on Bill yet. I'm not. I could see why you would feel that way, though. I'm not doing it. Not yet. But he's a 7th round pick. He's a 7th round pick, just like Sam was a 5th round pick. And sometimes you can get excited, but you have to realize why a guy was drafted where he was drafted. I think Bill would have been drafted higher, but not a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round pick. He still would have been a day 3 pick, even if he would have played last year. He just wouldn't have been a 7th round pick. I think teams would have seen the talent. He would have been at the combine. He would have impressed some teams, and he would have probably gone somewhere in the 5th, or maybe I think the 4th, maybe 5th, no later than the 6th round, I think. Instead of being one of the last, if not the last running back taken in the draft. Whatever the case may be. He's a 7th round pick. So we might have, not we, I know I got ahead of my skis. I started saying crazy shit like he might be the best running back in the NFC, not named, Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey. And everybody was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then he started listing backs. And of course I was like, Jahmyr Gibbs is ahead of him. And then it was like Josh Jacobs. I was like, nope, he better than Josh Jacobs. Man, if you don't sit your stupid ass down talking that bullshit, but I can do that sometimes. I can get ahead of myself. I did it with Sam Howell. I did it with Bill this year. It happens. I'm guilty as charged. I'll never run away from it. I'll stand in my bullshit. I'll stand in it. I'm not giving up on him yet. I'm not giving up on him yet. But I get it if you are. And if you have, rather. I'm not. Anyway, I digress. I'll tell you this much, though. You give me a chance in the offseason to get my hands on K9 or Breece Hall, Bill, back of the line, buddy. You're now a backup. But I would love to see him these final 6 games. Get a real opportunity to show what he can do once more. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Anyway, it doesn't have to be this year with Bill either. It could be next year that he proves it. But I digress. Anyway, you guys have a good one. I appreciate y'all for kicking it with the kid tonight. Hopefully you kicked it with me earlier. Hopefully you'll kick it with me a little bit later on after the Bills and Texans game later on tonight. If not, I'll see you tomorrow for Commanders Nightly News as we wrap up the final episode during the Commanders bye week. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T. I just put out a defensive, video about where this roster is, who stays, who goes, what free agents this team could look to target. Again, it's a fluid situation with the free agency situation because you're going to have a lot more guys added to the mix. You're going to have some guys taken off that market by re-signing with their teams being slapped, the franchise tag being slapped on them, et cetera, et cetera. So still a good watch if you haven't already checked it out. But until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless. Good night.